Sorry, it took me a moment to get on. Just one of those things. I wanted to make sure that I had as much information as possible. This one's going to be a little more lengthy than the other ones, just because I was down for not down. I was away for a good part of a month, and that is because it was time to enjoy the family. And I had been working so hard those first 6 months. Being an economist, it's a bit challenging, and you need to absolutely take some time off. I did, and had a lot of fun with the family. Had a lot of fun with the kids. That's what it is about. We just had a blast. It was great. It was great to be able to go camping with the kids, go on a little vacation. I went out just down to San Diego. It was a load of fun. I highly recommend everybody taking some time off, enjoying it with the family, especially while the family is able and wanting to vacation. So we all had a blast. It was a lot of fun. So, anyways, would like to get this party started, and of course, I have to share the screen. And there we go. All right. So here we go. It's another housing debrief. And that's right. I'm asking everybody to like and subscribe. As always, I want everybody to like, go to youtube.com, like and subscribe to the channel. It helps with the algorithms. We just want to get the proper word out there. There's so much noise out there, and our job is to cut right through all of the noise that's out there. And there's plenty of that negative noise that's out there. I'm not about. There are definitely slowdowns and different things that are going on right now with the housing market. I am not a housing market cheerleader. I'm more of I like to strip everything, the human element, all the politics out of it, everything that I can, and take a look at it and talk about it, rather than fear mongering where everybody is so worried about things that happen. It's 8% of everything that we fear about actually comes to fruition. So I just need to get the proper word out there. So I'm asking you to like and subscribe. Go to youtube.com. I've got some funny slides to start off with. The realtor licensed under 8 years, realtor licensed under 2 years, and realtors who actually worked through the 2008-2009 market crash. And shoot, I've been doing this since 1991. I've seen more than one downturn. I got in 1991. It was perfect time during the savings and loan scandal and that downturn, especially in Southern California. They were hit hard. So, you know what? This is the time of the year. These are the kind of markets where the cream rises to the crop, and the cream rises to the top. Easy for me to say. But there you go. And those people that work the hardest are the ones that achieve so much. People are always looking over their shoulder going, what in the world are they doing? Thing that's supposed to be slower, and that agent over there or that lender over there or that person over there is totally killing it. And that's because they don't listen to all the noise. They just go out there and crush as much as they possibly can. How about this one? Refreshed pricing. No longer price reduction, no longer price improvement. It's refreshed pricing. A new price. $3.2 million. Pretty funny. So here's housing, a SoCal update. And we've got to talk about interest rates. So, of course, inflation is an issue. It's very, very sticky right now. They're having a hard time bringing down inflation, but it's not just us in the United States that's dealing with this inflation. As a matter of fact, it's happening around the world. These are European countries. Of course, UK isn't included in there. And UK is worried about 12, 13% inflation. They have a really hot inflation. As a matter of fact, they raised their short-term rate by 0.5%. They've never gone above 0.25%. So 0.5% is something new for them. And you can see there's most of Europe is having the same issue with very, very hot inflation. The difference is they don't have as many tools in their tool belt to help tamper down that inflation. And on this side of with this kind of inflation that we have, there is a problem with supply. So supply is just going to be an issue. So what the federal governments are trying to do is they're trying to bring down the demand. Well, unfortunately, in other countries, they have a hard time. They don't have those tools in their arsenal to bring down demand. And that's around the world. They have this problem with the populations getting older. As a matter of fact, Japan and Italy are two of the countries that have the biggest problem as far as their populations getting older, and they don't have a lot of young people because they have a lack of replacement population. As a matter of fact, there's such an issue with their baby boomers did not have kids. They don't have that millennial consumption like the United States has. And so they also have that lack of millennial consumption. We still consume quite a bit. Millennials are consuming like crazy, but those are the ones that get affected with the short-term rate going up, where automobile loans are higher, as well as credit card debt and equity line of credits are higher. So what happens is credit becomes more expensive, and it kind of curtails a little bit of demand, especially among younger people. And here's something else that happens when these governments around the world don't have those kind of tools. What happens is the United States dollar gets a lot hotter. Easy for me to say. How many dollars 1 euro buys? It's close to 1 to 1. I think right now it's at 98 cents. It's very close to parity, and that has everything to do with the fact that the United States dollar is just getting better. And the Federal Reserve has been extremely busy. They tapered down to zero in March. They've done lots and lots of Fed rate hikes. Matter of fact, they did another one. We'll get into that in a second. They're reducing the balance sheet. It got way too large, and now they're trying to bring that down. They're doing all at the same time, all in the same year, and they're doing everything they possibly can. They're throwing the kitchen sink at it to slow down inflation. And the way they do that is by slowing down the overall economy and slowing down the demand side of things, because they cannot fix the supply chain issues that still exist today. My overpriced signs, I'm trying to get these replaced. I'm trying to get some more, and I'm having a hard time getting it because the plastic is not available right now. So the Fed doubles down on that inflation with back-to-back rate hikes of 0.75%. And now we're at 2.5% for the short-term rate. And it is going to continue to go up, and they're going to get it to about 3.5% by the end of this year. And then the next year, the plot dots say that we're going to be right around 3.75%. And then the year after that, in 2024, back down to 3.5%. Anything beyond this year is just pretending like they know exactly what they're talking about, but there's going to be a lot of changes from now until then that will move these projections quite a bit. But they want to be about 3.5 at the end of the year, so they still have some more room to grow. Now, understand that we've known this all along, so we've already absorbed all of this. The long-term rate has continued to remain where it is. Actually not. It's been coming down. See, the issue there is when the short-term rate goes up, that doesn't mean that long-term rates go down. As a matter of fact, remember that when we had that 0.75 of bump, not the last one, but the one in June, we had a consumer price index CPI report that came out that was way too hot, and then all of a sudden interest rates spiked to 6.25%. Well, when they finally the Federal Reserve met and they increased the short-term rate by 0.75%, that day interest rates actually fell 0.25% for 30-year mortgages. What they're talking about is the short-term rate, and once again, that is automobile loans, equity line of credits, as well as credit card debt. So it's just not that they don't have control over 30-year mortgages. I think they would like to have more control over 30-year mortgages, but they don't have as much in their tool belt to deal with these 30-year mortgage rates than they would really like. So, but just know that they've been bringing up the short-term rate, and the last 2.75 point bumps, we've actually had interest rates come down. One time significantly, the other time slightly. That was the one that came out most recently. Was only slightly, but still was down nonetheless, not up 0.75%. And overall, the economy is definitely slowing. We're definitely seeing that the overall economy is slowing, and as a result, we've seen this 10-year Treasury start to go down. And the 10-year Treasury is the investor that's looking at the 10-year Treasury is a very similar investor that's looking at mortgage-backed securities. So when these 10-year Treasuries go down, so do mortgage-backed securities. They kind of go kumbaya. They kind of lockstep go with each other. I won't go into too much detail as to there's been a little bit of a difference this year, but just know that what has happened is you could see from this green line, it was a lot higher. We were above 3% on the 10-year Treasury, and that's when we had interest rates at 6.25%. But since then, it's come all the way down to 2.692%, and that was as of today. And we have interest rates that are a lot lower. As a matter of fact, interest rates, you could see it kind of did this up and down seesaw thing. So it went all the way up from 6.25%. You could see it all the way down to where it is today, 5.09%. But that seesaw, it was at 5.05% earlier this week, then went up, then came back down. And what's going on is there's a lot of volatility in interest rates, and each lender is pricing things differently. So you're getting a lot of variations, and that's why we're getting these big swings in interest rates. But nonetheless, if you see an interest rate of right around 5%, that's something to lock. Can interest rates go down lower? Absolutely. Can they go higher? Yes, we've seen the volatility exactly where they're going to go. Nobody really has a definitive answer to that. We do have ranges that we're working with. The last time we were this high was November of 2018. Now, remember, just yesterday it was at 5.5%. Now that brings us all the way back to 2008 and 2009 numbers. So we're having interest rates that are yo-yoing all over the place, and just know that that is going to be what's going on because the Federal Reserve has stepped completely out of that, and it is an extremely volatile market as far as interest rates are concerned. And interest rates can bounce anywhere from 4.5% all the way up to 6%. And it's going to be bouncing all over the place in between these. And can it get 6%? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to get all the way up there? No, I don't, because the overall economy is going to continue to contract a little bit. So know that at 4.5%, we're dealing with a slight seller's market. And at 6%, we're dealing with a slight buyer's market. We're at 5%. So, and I'll show you what that's doing to the numbers. But know that if you want to know exactly where interest rates are going to be, you're going to have to drink some beers and shoot some darts, because where they're going to be at the end of this year, I'm going to surmise that they're going to be in the 4s. But you know what? We'll have a couple beers and we'll throw some darts at the dartboard and try to figure out exactly where they're going to be. Now, as far as this recession is concerned, technically, there's Econ 101 tells us that when you have two negative quarters of GDP, that you have a recession. And it's what we call right now a technical recession. Because if you see this U.S. enters a technical recession, you can't even see it on the right-hand side. It's so teeny tiny. It's all the way over here. That tiny thing right there, that is the small amount that GDP was down. Now, if you see it, the GDP for the first quarter is down 1.6%. And it was down 0.9% for the second quarter. That first quarter had a lot to do with inventories, where all those boats that were sitting off the different harbors, like off of Long Beach, got unloaded after the beginning of this year. And then we had an inventory glut, and there was way too much product that was on the shelves, and that was creating a problem, which really cut down GDP. Now, GDP wasn't going to be super strong if that wasn't the case, yet it most likely would have been positive. Now, who gets to really call the recession? It's the National Bureau of Economic Research, and they're conducting and disseminating nonpartisan economic research. And this is really what economists like to do. They like to pull the humanness out of it, pull the politics out of it, and just have the look at all the facts and figures, and then have a model to look at. Their model is not two negative quarters of GDP, so I'd be very surprised. And just like the Federal Reserve has said, they would be surprised if it was called a recession at this point. And because our recession flag model, the model that I follow is Logan Motoshami's, because he's got this thing dialed in, and his recessionary flags are 6 flags that he looks at, and there's 5 that are already blowing. The 6th one is the leading economic indicators fall for 4 months straight, and that's just a basket of economic news. Now, understand that basket is weakening, but it is still positive, and you can see it with this LEI report. That blue on the right-hand side shows how it's coming down, but it is still positive. It's not yet negative. Every time it goes negative, you can see in the past, it has led to an eventual recession. It's not necessarily it's positive and we have a recession at the same time. That's not typical going backwards. Understand that COVID disrupted quite a few things, including inventories, which has a lot to do with that first quarter. Now, and that's what we're looking at right now. See, the problem is the job market's still too strong. We're going to get a jobs report tomorrow, and it's still going to be still too strong, stronger than what everybody thinks. You really don't have the kind of a market where you have a recession at the same time that you're adding jobs. That's typically not what happens. So, and then also the other thing is we have a little bit too much consumer consumption right now. That should be coming down, but it's not coming down enough. We're seeing things come down, and industrial production is another thing that we're seeing. The numbers are still good. They're coming down, but they're not yet in negative territory where we really can't call a recession. And it doesn't matter. Even when we go into recessions, it's going to be this different kind of recession. Every recession has its own flavor, and this one too. You have to understand that 2 times that when we had a recession where values went down was the savings and loan scandal of 1991 and the Great Recession of 2008. The other 4 out of the 6, actually, we had appreciation during those recessions, and that's the kind of a kind of a recession that we would have that's coming up, and it's only because of the fact that it's not the real estate market that has led to this recession. The overall housing stock is extremely strong. And every time we have a recession, you can see this right here, we have interest rates that drop. That's what this highlights. This is every recession since the 1981. And you can see every single time interest rates drop during a recession. Now, we're already seeing that drop in interest rates, but it will drop even more, and into the 4s is what my thinking is as soon as we get towards that recession. And what happens is now that we have interest rates that are lower, it's going to fuel more demand. So the housing market. But first, I'm just going to get a housing market. Let's talk about our sponsor. Of course, we can't do this without a wonderful sponsor. We have Jason Thibodeau is back with GMJ Financial. Thank you, Jason, for your continued sponsorship. You can reach him at 714-330-8263. He's at the Thibodeau Morel Group, and they have an homebuyer EMD protection where they will protect your earnest money deposit. There's a fee, but you can get $50,000 or 5% of the purchase price back if there is a problem. So there's this earnest money deposit protection program that they have. And the fee is actually refunded once the loan closes. So this is a great program. If you have fear, boy, you can put a little bit of money up front. You can get your money back if something happens. You don't get your money, and when you close, you get that fee back. So pretty cool. And then he has a lock and shop mortgage program where, hey, you know what? You want to lock and shop? You could do that. And there's a 90 and 120 day lock. And if rates improve, there's an option to secure a lower rate. There's an upfront cost to it, and they lock they lock the address as to be determined. Homebuyers can shop without susceptibility to rising rates. So that's this kind of market. If you've got somebody that's scared about that, they can do that. And then there's also a 2-1 buy down mortgage program. Hey, you know what? Rather than reduce the price, offer some buy downs. And this explains all of that you can get a buy down 3.625% interest rate with a buy down. That's pretty fantastic. That's something additional that you can use as a tool in your arsenal. As a listing agent, you could say, hey, we're willing to do this, that type of thing, rather than the price reduction. So our methodology is simple. We don't make promises we can't keep. Gosh, like tripping over my tongue. So I just want to thank Jason Thibodeau for his sponsorship at JMJ Financial. You can reach him at 714-330-8263. That's 714-330-8263. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it. So let's get back to the housing market and look at this. This is the inventory here in Southern California. And as you can see, it has definitely come up quite a bit. And as a matter of fact, we have been lower before in other years, 2017 being one of those. In 2019 at the end was one of those. So you can see we have actually been here. So inventory has actually climbed enough where it is definitely a different story out there right now. And yes, it's been like a rocket ship up. But I do want you to see on the right-hand side, you can kind of see it. There's actually a curve to this. And that curve has to do with the fact that demand is starting to increase, and the inventory is the increase in inventory are starting to decrease. So we're not going up at as big of a rate as we were before. And you could see it here probably the best because this is from the start of the year to where we are today. And today we're at 31,322. It's up 3% or up 789. But that was the smallest rise since the end of March. And if you see that, the end of March, it was before that started to really rocket up, and now it's slowing down again. So it is rising, but just not nearly at the rate that we were before. And that has everything to do with mortgage rates coming down. It's the highest level since July of 2020. And last year, 20,458. That was 35% less, or 10,864 fewer homes on the market. And then the 3-year average is 41,165. That is 31% more. And you can see here, so the dotted green line is 2013, and that's what happens when interest rates, they were kind of flat at the beginning, and then they went up, and it drew up the inventory, which we see in the green solid line is inventory in 2013. The dotted yellow line is this year, dotted orange line, and that is this year's interest rates. And you can see what's happened. This isn't even, because I would do this every 2 weeks, so it doesn't even take into account when it got all the way up to 6.25%. But since then, you can see it's come all the way down to that 5.09%. That's where it is. It's come up to that 5 3/4 where it was for a while, and then it came all the way down to 5.09%. And you could see the inventory was going up, and now it's starting to slow. This is not what I want to see. I actually want to see this thing continue because we need more inventory. We need that balancing act. And that's exactly what the Fed said that one of their mandates, one of the things they want to do with the residential resale market is see a little bit more balance. And we're not going to get it yet. So this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that. That's what's happened with the 30-year mortgage, and this is what's going on with the inventory because of it. And as far as where we are right now, typically we peak between July and the middle of or the third week of August, and that's typically where we peak. But in years like this, where interest rates go up, that is where the peak is actually later. It's typically October to Thanksgiving. And that is exactly what was going to happen. As long as we had 5.7% interest rates or higher, it's just going to continue to go up. But then we have since come down in interest rates. And now what I'm seeing is that we're not necessarily going to peak before the third week of August, yet we are going to peak most likely as long as the interest rates stay kind of like where they're at right now and keep on going down to that 5% level or even below 5%. What's going to happen is we're going to peak in September. And once we peak in September, it's going to start to go down. And it will continue to go down. See, what was going to happen before is it was going to continue to go up and peak in October, and it would have probably been right on that purple line or just right below. So we would have a year that we finally got back to where we were prior to COVID. But instead, we're going to be dealing with this kind of a slope. And when that happens, it's just going to off to the races again in 2023. We're going to have not enough homes on the market. So I don't know if this is for sure what's going to happen. I do not make my forecast until September, but September is coming up and you can kind of hear what my thinking is already. So January today in supply, LA County went from 44, this is the start, January 1st, 4,432 to 11,110. Orange County from 954 to 4,094. That's a welcome relief. But you know what? LA is normally at about 14,000 homes. Orange County is normally at 6,000 homes. Riverside County went from 2,202 to 6,065, and they're normally at 8,000 homes. And San Bernardino County, 2,011 to 5,272. They're very close to their 3-year average. And San Diego is at 1,254 to 4,781. They too are way shy of their of where the 3-year average prior to COVID. And Ventura from 349 to 1196. So inventories are increasing. The number of reductions, I did this for fun. We're at 35% across the United States. This is courtesy of Altos Research. And I did LA County is at 31%. And Orange County is at 35%. Riverside County is at 41% of the inventory has reduced their price. San Bernardino is at 41%. San Diego is at 37%. And Ventura is at 32%. That is a lot of price reductions hand in hand with the market shifting and slowing down. Now, demand is the last 30 days worth of escrow activity, new contracts, Today, 12,191, it went up 2.5% or up 292 pending sales. Now, this is not this kind of can happen during this time of the year, but this year it was not expected at all. And the only reason why it's going up right now is because we've had interest rates that have come down a little bit, and it's kind of fueling a little bit of demand. It's still, you have to understand, at the beginning of August, it's still the lowest level since I tracked it in 2012. It's very, very similar to, when I look at other markets, very, very similar to Great Recession levels, but it's matched against very muted inventory. It's the first rise since mid-March. And last year, we were at 18,466 pending sales, which is 51% higher. The 3-year average is 16,757, which is 37% higher. So we are dealing with more muted demand, but it is starting to rise because interest rates are starting to drop. And where do I think they're going to go? I think we're actually going to see this rise continue. It's going to be, excuse me, very, very similar to that purple line, which was 2019. And that's where we kind of saw an improvement in rates. And that's what we can get as we get more economic news that the economy is slowing. That's going to translate to the 10-year dropping as well as 30-year mortgage rates dropping. And then from there, we hit the holidays market, and lo and behold, we will have a lot fewer homes on the market. Man. So demand today versus 3-year average. LA is down 26%. Orange County is down 34%. Riverside's down 16%. And San Bernardino's down 23%. And San Diego's down 36%. Did not have the time to do Ventura because I don't really have a report for that yet. But I do have the data that goes back. It's just an exhaustive process to locate some of the stuff. But in the last 2 weeks, LA actually went up 1% in demand. Orange County went up 6% in demand. Riverside County went up 1%. San Bernardino went up 3%. And San Diego went up 5% in demand. As far as how fast is this market moving, you could see it was slowing down. That's this higher market times. But here we are. On March 17th, we're at 24 days. Yet today we're at 77 days. But that is the same exact level as where we were 2 weeks ago. So there was no change within 2 weeks. That's because we've had this increase in demand and the inventory is increasing, and they're kind of at the same pace. So when they go at the same pace, you get this flatness, and that's very common at this time of the year, that demand and inventory kind of lockstep run with each other, and that's why you see all these flat lines. There's no improvement, but there's also, it's not slowing further either. Last year, we were at 33 days at the same time period, insanely hot compared to where we are today. And the 3-year average is at 74 days. So we're slightly higher than the 3-year average. So it's right there in line with where we were prior to COVID. So people are going, man, is it slow? And yeah, that's because you're comparing it to the way it used to be. And that's normal. And you can see the same curve over here. That's that same curve that I showed you before on the inventory. So we're starting to see it in the market time. And as far as market time, yeah, we're a lot higher than where we were before. It's been hotter in many, many different markets during the springtime. We're beyond the spring, but it is definitely slowing down. And it's not actually the slowest that we've seen since 2012. This was the start of the pandemic where everything slowed down incredibly. This was 2018, the end, when we had interest rates that hit 5%. And this is 2014. And where there was a lot that the Fed was doing. And this is 2013. That was where we had the taper tantrum. So we've been a lot higher than where we are today as far as market time is concerned. And so you have to take this with a grain of salt, because I've heard a lot of people say, yeah, prices are coming down. That is all that froth. When somebody bought a home for $200,000 extra and the next buyer is now coming along and they're looking at all the comps and they're looking at like properties, they're seeing that one that sold for a lot more and they're saying, I'm not paying that. I just don't want to pay that. And that's what I said. I don't subscribe to the froth for the first 6 months of the year. And this is why. So we're not getting values that are plummeting because price reductions are happening. Price reductions are happening because a lot of people are overpriced and they are bringing their expectations back to reality. And then we've got a lot of the froth, the people that overpaid earlier this year, that buyers aren't willing to do it, but they're not going to get any kind of a deal. That's for darn sure. And as far as where we are right now, below 60 is a hot seller's market. Well, we're above that. And between below this 90 is a slight seller. 60 to 90 is slight sellers market. That's where we are right now. Above 90 is where it's balanced. 90 to 120 is balanced. And above 120 is a buyer's market. We're not even close to that. Above 120 to 150 is slight buyer's market. You need to be there 4 months before you start seeing values start to come down. And above 150 is what I refer to as a deep buyer's market, where we see values coming down a lot faster. We are nowhere close to any of these. That is why, with confidence, I can tell you, we are not going into a market where values are going to be plummeting like you read with so many articles. They just don't follow this stuff as closely as some housing analysts do. So as far as the where we're going to go from here, it's going to be pretty flat for the remainder of the year. And stay tuned. We'll see how this evolves, but this is exactly how it's evolved over the last month. And it's moving. It's very, very close to a balanced market, but know that that's kind of where we might be at the end of the year, but we'll just have to wait and see. Right now, it's at slight sellers. It might stay there. As far as LA, they're at an 80-day market. That's slight sellers. Orange County is at 69. It's like smack dab in the middle of that slight sellers. Riverside, 77. San Bernardino, 92. They're balanced at San Bernardino. San Diego's at 66 days, and Ventura's at 58 days. So Ventura's actually still hot at 58 days. So, but it's very, very close to a slight seller's market as well. So that's what's going on. If you want a copy of this, you need to be a subscriber. And the best way to be a subscriber is by going to reportsonhousing.com, clicking on subscribe, and you know what? I've got reports that dot all over Southern California. Orange County, LA, and San Diego get a new one this coming up Monday. Riverside, San Bernardino got theirs on Monday of this week, and it alternates between those two. But if you subscribe, you get the last report that came out. And coming soon is the Bay Area. We're still working out all the logistics on it right now. $15 per month or $150 per year. You get a free month if you utilize the coupon code BUYERS. I forgot to update this. I think we'll just make buyers the coupon code again. And the last one that I did was summer slowdown. That was all the way back in June. And I have a number of reports that we've done since then. That is not the most recent one. And that's all I have for everybody. This is running a little bit longer than I have liked in the past. So I just want everybody to know that I am just very, very happy that you can be here again with me. And I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Just know that I will be continuing to bring you the latest and greatest. I don't know. I think the next report that I might write is called Looking for a Deal. It's not going to happen, or something along those lines. So I know there's a lot of people looking for deals, but I can tell you they're going to have a hard time finding that kind of a deal in this kind of a marketplace. And I'll explain exactly why. So go to reportsonhousing.com and subscribe, and we will see you on the other side of this weekend. Have a great finish to your week. And thank you for tuning in.